What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to be giving you some very basic editing tips so you can get started editing your own video. I will be editing a short form vertical style video, but you can still apply all the same principles to long form as well. My video editing software that I use is Filmora Pro. However, all of them are pretty similar, so you should be able to apply most of the things I show you today into any other software. But let's get right into it. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is open up your editing software and then import your video. I already have mine here, so I will add it to my timeline. I always keep project settings as they are. However, if you need to, you can import media here. Pretty easy. Just find what you're looking for, bring it into the file. Now, most of the time, depending on the software you're using and what sort of capabilities it has, the most general type of editing is what we call a cut. So you're going to probably bring it right up to where the sound begins and cut it so that there isn't this big dead space. And then for my instance, I'm just going to hit delete and it gets rid of it, right? And we're going to cut all these different dead spaces in order to make the video more clear and concise and not have so much either ums or dead space in between all the things you're talking about. Now, the one thing I did forget to do is change my video into a vertical format. So what I'm going to do is rotate it 90 degrees. There we go. Now it fits nicely. So personally, what I like to do is go into video up here. So I double click here, go into video. I'm going to change the scale a little bit. So that's just going to be how much it zooms in. So I just like my head to be a little higher up top. And this is why it doesn't matter if you don't film it perfectly. You can adjust these things afterwards. But the reason I do this now is because once I start breaking these down into smaller pieces, I don't want to have to adjust them individually. I want to do it all at the same time. Now, as I mentioned, most of the time, or if you're just getting started or you don't have the capability, you're going to come in here and unfortunately you're just going to have to come to each one and delete all these gaps in between. But luckily with Filmora, we have the capability to use what is called the silence detection software. So from up here, the way you would do it is you would right click and you hit silence detection. But since I already have it down on the timeline, the other way to go about it is you click on it, make sure it's highlighted, and then we also have silence detection right here. So I'm going to go into my silence detection. I like the settings to be, as you can see above, so 25% for volume threshold, 0.4 for minimum duration, and then softening buffer. And now we're going to hit restart. So what this is going to do is recognize where all those silence gaps are, right? So it's going to save me all that time cutting and chopping and deleting all these things. Now, I'm still going to have to go back and edit it, don't get me wrong, but it just saves so much time. And I wish I knew about this a year ago. I only found out about it in the last couple of months, and it hasn't been around forever, but I believe there are plugins for other software such as Adobe Premiere. So next, I'm just going to hit export to timeline. Now, look at this, beautiful. We have all of our clips here. So it's not going to be perfect because there will be little sounds and other things you'll have to cut out. And of course, I wasn't perfect in my video. I made mistakes, so we'll have to get rid of those. Just tighten up the gaps and whatnot, but it does the bulk of the work for you. So I'm just going to go over a few different things with you. So I'll kind of watch it from the start and just see how I like it. I wish I had learned it way earlier in my career. So as you can see, there's a bit too much of a gap here. So I'll go in and just delete that and we'll see how it sounds now. It doesn't just work it much better, obviously, and you can kind of just eyeball it for the most part. So we can see that, you know, a lot of these are going to have too much time between talking. The one thing that you will come across is that you're not going to know when you make the mistake. So sometimes it's nice to just do a full run through and delete all of the double ups or mistakes and then go back and kind of do the fine tuning. But let's take a look here. Business, and it has to do with setting goals. Let me explain. So of course, again, we're going to go through. I think this part of it's pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to fast forward through the rest of these cutting, and then I will show you some of the different effects that I use afterwards. So hold tight. All right, so we're done the initial editing component. I'm just going to show you how it looks here quickly. Here's a huge tip that changed my business forever, and I wish I had learned it way earlier in my career. It doesn't just work in real estate, it can be applied to any business, and it has to do with setting goals. Let me explain. Setting goals without a why behind them makes them far less powerful. So instead of creating the goal of selling 50 homes this year, change the way you think about it to helping 50 families. By doing so, you create a real emotional connection to the goal. And on the days that you aren't feeling up to it and you just don't want to get out of bed, this will be a far greater driver than just adding another check mark to your tally. Boom, there you go. So it looks pretty good already, but obviously we want to add a few effects and features to make it just pop a little bit more, keep your viewers' attention. So I'll go over a couple things that I like to do. First of all, I like to go into my original frame or sometimes throughout the video, and I go into this crop and zoom feature. And so what this is going to do is just give it a bit of movement. So it says pan and zoom. So this is my end point, right? Start point. So this means it's going to start wide, come in narrow to whatever I zoom it into. You can also do the opposite if you want it zooming out, but typically I like it zooming in. So we'll do this here, and we will take a quick look at how that looks. There you go, just creates a little bit more movement and keeps the viewer's attention. Now, another thing, so what about some text? We want some sort of engaging text right at the beginning of the video. So we can go in here. There are tons of different custom-made ones that you can already see. I'm gonna use one of the ones that I have personally made. And we'll go in here. So it's gonna show up on our video over here. We can just adjust that to whatever we want. So I just wanna make it a little bit bigger, of course. Double click on the text, and then so I want it centered. I want it 100 font, and I'm going to have 2 lines. So I'm just going to say, let's see, use this tip to, I don't know, grow your business, we'll say. Grow your biz. We'll probably change this later, but just for your entertainment. So I'll have it here. So now, how's it look? Now we obviously want to have a better one than that, but I'm just going on the fly. So get something that's catchy and grab the attention. But I'm going to add one more component to this, which is actually sound effects. So when something comes on the screen, I like to use this one. So I'll just kind of have, right? Just catches their attention just a little bit more. So that is fantastic. In regards to your title, one more thing that I want to show you is that here's the different layers. So we're looking at the different layers. So if I was to copy and paste this one, right? Obviously it's going to be directly over top of it, but let's just change it to make it a little bit easier. So if we look at this, let's just, I don't know, we'll make it yellow just so you can see. So obviously those are in the exact same spot right now, but if I overlap them to change my business. So wherever your effect, your video, whatever it may be, these are different layers, right? So layer 4, layer 3, level 2, layer 1, and whatever is at the top is going to show up on top. So if I was to pull my video up above, right, it would hide everything. You wouldn't see these because they're beneath it. So it's important when you're doing higher level edits that you understand these sorts of things. Now, if you want to turn it on and off, it's just so you can maybe view if something's hiding behind something else, but this doesn't actually remove it when you export it, but this will help you to get a better view for what's going on. We'll get rid of that. And then other things that you can do within that software is, so transitions, for instance, let's go with a warp dissolve. This isn't something I would probably use in this video, but for instance, if you want to transition from one clip to the next, you'll see here. Well, that might have been a little laggy, but you can just see it's a transition from one clip to another. Tons in here. You can search for them, look them up. They're great. You can also get these sorts of effects. So for instance, maybe you want to make something blurry, right? So sometimes when I put text over top, so let's give you an example here. And if you click the layer, and I'm just copying and pasting, maybe I want the text to pop a little bit more. I want the background to be blurry. Again, here's how you can just use one of those effects to make the background blurry. There's tons of things in here. I'm not going to go over all of them, but I just want to give you a bit of a general overview for what its capabilities are. You're going to have to play around with it because they're thousands of different effects and transitions and everything else. So check them out. All these different things that I'm showing you right now are called pattern interrupts. So it resets the attention of the viewer. Now there's many ways to do this. It could be text, it could be zoom in, zoom out, it could be a change of background, it could be B-roll, which we'll get to in a minute. But the primary one I like to do is zoom in and zoom out, and then also just changing how zoomed in or zoomed out the next one is, or the scale. So we see here, I like to change it to 220. So now we're going from this, right, just so it's zooming in, zooming out, and then I'll kind of do that throughout the video. Again, just catches a little bit more attention. Now, the next thing I want to show you is called B-roll. So A-roll is what you're looking at here. That's the primary footage. Now, B-roll is something that you add to it to, usually has context for what you're filming. So I know in here I talk about selling 50 homes, right? So let's find that. So selling 50 homes. So what we're going to want to do is find B-roll. So this is a great site right here, pexels.com. If you have Filmora, it's built right in. Fantastic. Otherwise, www.pexels.com. Bunch of free B-roll and photos. So we're going to search in here. Let's just say real estate, right? Simple. But we want to make sure, perfect, we have portrait orientation. What do we have? What will kind of give us a feeling here? So something's being sold, right? It's a sold sign. Just keep project settings. And then we want to cut it off just slightly behind. So as you'll see, so that is what B-roll is, but we can make it even more dynamic. So I think I wanted to come in a little bit earlier. As you can see here. Okay, now we can even add something else to it. So I want it to come from out of the screen. So animation, slide right. Now, this is how quickly or how slowly it's going to come in. So I want it to be a little bit quicker so it doesn't drag on forever. Now let's take a look.
Goal of selling 50 homes in here.
So it comes in from off the screen now. How can we add one more level of complexity? Well, we can add a sound effect. So I like to use this one, this whoosh. We'll listen, it kind of gives it the sound effect that is moving from that screen on. Again, just a little thing now. If we use all of these different techniques throughout the video, it's going to keep the viewer's attention, keep resetting their attention, and just keep them watching till the end, right? And then you can obviously add captions and things of that nature, which I'm not going to do in this video. That will be a future one, as you will see towards the end. But those are all great things to do. And with this B-roll, you can also use it to cover up things maybe you look off screen, or you don't like how you look in one of the shots, or something of that nature, or you mess up. You can always refilm it, or just refilm the audio and put one of these over top. It, again, just helps keep people engaged as long as it's given within context. Another way is you put a picture into the frame. One of the things that I like to do is when I put that picture, I do the same as before, but I use the zoom feature. So I'll show you that really quick. Let's go into photos, real estate. Perfect. So we'll just throw this one in here really quick just to show you. And just ignore, it's out of context, but I just want to show you why I do this. So obviously you want the picture to fill the whole screen. So we're going to scale it up. Fill the whole screen. Okay. And so when that comes onto the screen, I want to just make it a bit more dynamic, right? Because a still picture isn't that exciting. It depends what it is. If it's a chart or a graph or something, maybe you want it still so people can read it. But for instance, in this case, I want a bit of movement just to, again, keep the viewer's attention. So let's see, right? Super simple. Just have it zooming in just like that. But there you go. Those are a bunch of different ways that you can use editing to your advantage. But I'm going to finish up the edit and then I will show you afterwards. So we'll see you in a minute, right? And just to finish it off, as soon as you are done editing your video, you're going to want to go to export, name it how you want it, save it to wherever you want. Now, it's important to make sure you have the correct resolution. So if it is a vertical video, 1080 by 1920. If it is a horizontal video, then the opposite. I like to have it at 25 frames per second. These things aren't super important right now. And then you're just going to hit export. And basically it will be saved into wherever your files are saved. But I've already finished. So just 1 second and I will show you what the final product looks like. All right, so we're all done the editing, and now let me show you the final product. Here's a huge tip that changed my business forever, and I wish I had learned it way earlier in my career. It doesn't just work in real estate, it can be applied to any business, and it has to do with setting goals. Let me explain. Setting goals without a why behind them makes them far less powerful. So instead of creating the goal of selling 50 homes this year, change the way you think about it to helping 50 families. By doing so, you create a real emotional connection to the goal. And on the days that you aren't feeling up to it and you just don't want to get out of bed, this will be a far greater driver than just adding another check mark to your tally. Boom, so there we go. A far more dynamic and effective video for actually keeping the viewer's attention than if it was just cuts all the way through. Again, either way works, but if you want to make it a little bit better with the editing, feel free to do so. Now, I will actually even take it a step further, not in this video, but in my next one, so it will look just like this. I wish I had learned it way earlier in my career. So if you do want to learn how to add these awesome captions to make your video even more captivating, check out my next video. Thanks so much for watching this one. Hit that like button if you did get any sort of value whatsoever. And if you are interested in seeing more videos just like this one on tips for social media, video editing, and all things of that nature for realtors, then be sure to think about subscribing to my channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.